Welcome back to France 24. Time now for business. Matthew's joining us in the studio from the business desk. Top story is the borrowing cost for Spain. They've hit a new record, and that's not good news.
Yes, well, Luke, we've been keeping a close eye on these all week because, of course, bond yields give a good sense of how investors feel about a country's finances. And well, if the Spanish ones are anything to go by, they're not feeling so good. They were up yesterday at 7% at one point. Now, of course, that's the point at which other countries have had bailouts in the past, like Ireland and Portugal. So they'll be hoping that they'll be able to bring that down in the near future.
OK. Italy, too, they're borrowing at higher rates. It's going to make it costly for them, too.
Similar story in Italy, yes. And yesterday, Italy was raising money on the bond markets, 4.5 billion euros, in fact. And it also was paying higher, not as high as Spain there, but higher rates on those 3-year bonds, 5.3%. Longer-term 7-year bonds up to 6%. So also concerns over Italy. And of course, the French President, François Hollande, was in Rome yesterday talking to the Italian Prime Minister, Mario Monti. They had lots to talk about and quite a lot to agree on. They both agree, for example, on these Euro bonds to help Europe out of some of these situations.
Bit of a united front there from France and Italy about this, perhaps anti-austerity measures, not, though, getting full support from the key player in the Eurozone, that's Germany.
No, that's right, Luke. As you say, the key player, Germany, Angela Merkel, she is resolutely opposed to these Euro bonds. She wants a lot more fiscal cooperation. Before that, she was speaking yesterday. She warned, don't expect too much from Germany. She said that although Germany is strong, Germany's strength does have its limits. Well, she also faces challenges in her own backyard. Neither the fiscal pact nor the European Stability Mechanism have yet been ratified through legislation. And she's facing resistance not only from the opposition, but also from within her own coalition and German industry.
Will it be passed or not? The European Fiscal Pact is the focus of much attention in Berlin. Angela Merkel needs the support of the opposition to ratify the treaty, but they want to impose their own conditions. They won't say yes to fiscal austerity without getting commitment to growth.
We will continue to waste taxpayers' money on German rescue plans if we do nothing to really save those states. And it will only work if we invest in employment and growth.
Negotiations between the majority and the opposition will resume next week. Time is running out because the budget pact must be agreed on together with the European Stability Mechanism, which enters into force on July 1st. But here again, the Chancellor is facing strong resistance. A group of dissidents within the ranks of her own coalition has decided to oppose the treaty. They have the support of a powerful lobby of family-run SMEs, which has concerns about the consequences of the ESM for the German economy.
The insecurity about the rescue of the euro is very high in Germany. We have always said we are for the euro, but against this type of rescue, because in the end, the Germans will never pay all that is expected of them.
The Chancellor is committed to ratifying the two treaties, but in order to get the two-thirds majority needed in Parliament, she will have to make concessions. To postpone the vote would have incalculable consequences.
In this case, financial markets would become even more nervous, the situation would be even more volatile, and interest rates for countries like Spain or Italy could increase as an exit from the crisis is further delayed.
The government announced that the vote will take place on June 29th, straight after the European Council meeting.
And how exactly have the markets been reacting to all this news?
Well, you'd expect a few drops going on, but actually markets have been pretty positive. Over in the US, we saw markets closing in positive territory yesterday. Expectations, actually, with some of this bad economic news, that central banks will step in and do something to help the situation. Over in Asia, let's take a look at how markets are performing there this morning. They have been mostly up. We saw the Kospi dropping, the Shanghai now also moving into negative territory. So it's been just a choppy trading session there. Well, let's get some more of the day's business news. And both the British Finance Minister and the Governor of the Bank of England were speaking at an annual event in the City of London last night. Governor Mervyn King said that Britain will launch a scheme to provide cheap long-term funding to banks to get them lending. The plan is to pump £100 billion or 123 billion euros into the economy.
Coca-Cola is to return to Burma after a 60-year absence. The company said it was resuming operations following the suspension of sanctions against the country. Burma was just one of 3 countries where Coca-Cola does not do business. The other 2 are Cuba and North Korea.
And one sector breaking records in the US is the arms industry. Sales have already shot past $50 billion this year. A $30 billion fighter jet deal with Saudi Arabia played a big part in that number. The US is the world's biggest exporter of arms, followed by Russia and Germany.
Now, another American businessman has been sent to prison for running a Ponzi scheme. 3 years ago, it was Bernie Madoff, who was sent to jail. Yesterday was the turn of Alan Stanford, who defrauded investors of more than $7 billion.
He was once a regular on Forbes magazine's list of richest men. Now disgraced Texas billionaire Alan Stanford is going to jail, sentenced to a 110-year term with no parole for running a $7 billion Ponzi scheme. His attorneys were seeking a far more lenient term of just 44 months. During the trial, the judge called Stanford's actions egregious criminal frauds. Prosecutors say the Texas tycoon swindled some 30,000 individual investors out of their life savings by using fraudulent certificates of deposit issued by his offshore bank in Antigua.
I called Stanford. I told him, you deserve what you get. You are a dirty, rotten scoundrel. And that's what he is, exactly. No remorse at all for the lives of victims all over the world.
Much like convicted fraudster Bernie Madoff, Stanford used a complex system to bilk his investors. Of the $8 billion in assets his bank supposedly held, investigators found just a small fraction, a blow for Stanford's victims.
110 years, but you know what? It doesn't help to us. Our lives are destroyed.
Prosecutors say Stanford used the money from his investors to fund a lavish lifestyle with yachts, private jets, and vacation homes around the world. American authorities have been given the okay to go after about $330 million in stolen funds sitting in frozen overseas bank accounts. But it could be years before any of the victims see a penny of their lost savings.
And finally, Matthew, Sweden is getting a fresh set of banknotes with some pretty famous faces.
Yes. That's right. The Central Bank of Sweden decided to organise a competition to design a new set of banknotes. That was won by a gentleman called Göran Österlund, and he's designed a whole series of banknotes featuring some well-known, bringing it quite up to date, not fully up to date. We've got in there famous Swedes. I'm sure you'll know these, including Greta Garbo, Ingmar Bergman. He's going to be on the 200 krona note, and Astrid Lindgren. She wrote the Pippi Longstocking books. I don't know if you remember those, but I have to say I was slightly disappointed at the lack of some other famous Swedish celebrities, including ABBA, for example. No Bjorn Borg either. They've got a fair number to choose from, but sadly not. If you've got any suggestions of other Swedish celebs that could have been on those notes, you can tweet me at Matthew France 24. Be interested to know what you think.
Indeed, a rich vein of possibilities for some of the other notes there. Perhaps suggestions are welcome. Thank you, Matthew. That's all we've got time for in business. Do stay tuned for more news and headlines after the break.